I'm gonna give you guys some some good tips, pretty much, um, to do during a recession, or even, you can start implementing these things right now. These things are something that's really going to be beneficial to not only your business, but also these kind of things are going to help you as far as um, if you're a person that's looking for a house, you want a house for your own self and stuff like that, and everything is really expensive, and right now the market is starting to turn. This is going to be the best time to find these kind of sellers, right? Number one, for you to get some new investment properties, and also, even if you're looking for a home for yourself, um, to use, right? So that you can put yourself in a better position. Some of these things you might hear, some of these things you might not hear. A lot of these things, these kind of things that I guess these tips that I'm telling you, sometimes people paid to hear these kind of tips. Okay, I'm gonna give it to you straight up for free. This is no holds bar. I'm gonna tell you how it is. Um, if you are in real estate, if you're a wholesaler or whatever, fix and flipper, and you're looking for good deals, or you just started the business, a lot of people that have been doing the business for a while, they know about these things. But I'm gonna tell you right now, this is going to be the best, absolutely the best things for you to implement, not only in your business but personally as well. Okay, when trying to get your business, I guess, get more deals, or even get something for yourself personally, right now. Okay, terms. Okay, you guys probably heard this saying before. Purchasing the property on terms. Okay, now, again, like I said, a lot of you guys probably heard people say terms, but never really specified exactly what do you mean by terms. Okay, now, during times like this, especially during a recession and a crash, and you're speaking to sellers, motivated sellers, right, that you get on the phone, either people that are going through hard times, or they need a solution very quickly and fast, and you can help them out, is by purchasing the property on terms. Number one term is seller financing it, right? Seller carryback, right? You guys heard this term before, seller financing. What that is, it's pretty simple. Instead of you going to a bank and getting a loan, you structure out a deal with the seller where they are the bank. Okay, so you purchase the property on terms, right? Seller financing it directly through the seller. Now, this could only work if the property is free and clear. Now, it can work if the property has a little mortgage on it. You just have to structure it out a little bit different, right? But what that does is that makes you bypass the bank. So you don't have to get all of that information that a bank asks for, whether it be taxes, credit, bank statements. You don't need none of that. You're working out a deal directly with the seller to finance the property through them. So pretty much they're the bank. They hold the note. Exactly what the bank does, they'll do it. Okay? Now, what you want to do is, now, a lot of people don't break this down. What you want to do is, right, when you want to talk to the seller, right, you want to ask them, listen, first you want to negotiate a price point. Okay? That's another thing that you don't hear. You want to negotiate a price point. Now, the price point still has to make sense for a seller finance. For instance, if the property's ARV, right, the market value, right, after a repair value of the property is 300, and a seller wants 320, seller finance, you can still do it, but you'll be still paying more, right, for the property, right? So it really wouldn't make sense, because at the end of the day, you're looking for a deal. You got to keep in mind, every property that you purchase, whether it be an investment property or personal property, you should always purchase a property with equity in it. Always. You want to walk into the property with equity. You don't want to walk into the property on the red with negative equity. You just don't want to do that. Why? Because if you purchase a property with some equity in it, it gives you a safe cushion. If the market goes completely down tomorrow, right, you know that you purchased with equity, so you'll be okay, right? Depending on the percentage. Now, if you walk into a property in the red, which means you have zero equity, you bought it with zero equity in it, what happens is when the market goes down, you'll be stuck with a high valued property, right, that you purchased at a high price point, but the value is actually down now because of what just happened with the economy and the crash and everything, and property values. So you don't want to do that. So back to seller financing. Seller financing is a great tool for you to use right now and implement in your business, whether it be as an investment or even personal. You can purchase a property off of seller financing right now and don't have to deal with a bank. Don't have to worry about your credit. You can have the fucked up credit. Now, with seller financing, yes, you do have to come out with a down payment, right? And you have to talk to the seller about, so these are things. So now I don't want to go deep into the seller financing. You guys can go on YouTube, catch videos. You can YouTube videos on seller financing, on exactly how that works and how to negotiate. But just know this, okay? When you're talking to a seller and discussing seller financing, number one step, the price. Price has to be, you have to have some equity in it, in that price. So, for instance, if the ARV is 300 for seller finance, you have to purchase at 270. I want seller finance at 270. Once you guys establish that price point, then you can start talking about down payments. If a seller wants a down payment, if they don't, that's fine. Some people would want it. Well, majority of the people want it. It's all about how you talk to them, right? For you to not have a down payment. But you could talk about down payments, right? Now, down payment, that's another thing you want to structure with a down payment, right? You don't want to pay, like, you don't want to give a down payment that's just like the same thing as a bank, right? Because remember, even though you're telling the seller that they can be the bank, they're not the bank. They're not a big institution like the bank. You understand? So therefore, if I was going to buy a property, right? I want to say, with the traditional way of going to the bank and asking them for a loan, right? Usually they ask you, the starting point is 20% down. You don't want to do that with a seller. I don't want to do 20% down with a seller. Why? Because I'm not going through the bank. If that was the case, I can go through the bank and do that. But I'm negotiating something with you, and I need a much lesser down payment, okay? Anywhere between 5 to 10%. Okay? 5 to 10%. That's what you need to talk to the seller about. Negotiate that. And then you could talk about what the monthly payment would be, right? Okay, with interest. Now, what is the benefit for a seller to do that, right? Number one, again, the seller has to be motivated, okay? You have to find a motivated seller. So when they're motivated, they're more open, okay? The second benefit is that they're holding the notes. That means they're going to get a monthly payment, and there's interest. You discuss the interest percentage, right? You don't want to do anything above 5%, right? Because think about it. What is the interest rate right now, right? You don't want to do that, right? You don't want to go to a seller and the seller wants you to give an interest rate what banks are giving. No, you want to do a lesser interest rate. You don't want to go above 5%, okay, for the interest rate. So you discuss that with them. You talk to them about it. And then pretty much from there, the seller is going to be getting monthly payments, and they don't have to worry about fixing the property up. They don't have to. That's your responsibility, because all they do is own the note. Your name is on the title. You own the property. They just own the note. That means the money that you're borrowing, the money that you're financing it through them. Okay? and then you just pay them. And you always want to go with the 30 years. So there's things that you want to take from the bank, things that you don't want to take from the bank. You want to do a 30 year. 30 years, stick to the 30 year. Unless you feel like you can pay off that property quicker, you can do 15 shorter time, but you always want to go for the max and do something like, you know, if you want to negotiate with them a little bit, you can do an arrangement with them where you can pay it off after a certain amount of time. But if you can't pay it off at that time, you resort to the 30 year. Okay. That's like amortizing it. Okay. So now that's number one, seller finance. Number two, subject to. All right. Subject to. That is great. That right there. Listen, the subject to, a lot of you people that want to get into a house, like right now, if you can find a seller, a motivated seller that's interested in doing a subject to, jump on it. Okay. Subject to, what is that? Usually subject tos, I introduce the subject tos to really motivated sellers that are going through issues and hard times. They can't pay their mortgage, or they're behind, they're going in foreclosure, or so on and so on. Okay. Now, what a subject to is, it's very simple. You're going to purchase the property subject to the mortgage. So that means you're going to keep the mortgage in place, right? Listen, seller, mortgage is going to stay the way it is. It's going to be in place. I'm going to buy the property from you. I'm going to take over the payments. Okay? So I'm going to take over the payments. Get you up to date. If you're behind on payments, or if you're 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, we're going to figure out the exact dollar amount. I'm going to pay that, and then I'm going to continue the payments and take the property from you. Now, a lot of people say, listen, that's, you know, how many people are going to be interested? Listen, a lot of people will be interested in it, especially during these times. Why? Because a lot of people, with inflation, everything going up, a lot of people are not able to make their mortgage payment. So they become behind. Now, this is the best time for you to swoop in and say, hey, look, listen, so that your name doesn't get messed up, right? With a foreclosure or whatever the case may be. I can take over. We can keep the mortgage in place. I'll take over the payments. I'll pay off what you didn't pay. Take over the payments, and then I will take this property, assume this property. And now what that does is that it gets you off the hook of a foreclosure. And now what you can do is you can actually rent a property or whatever. Now with a subject to, there are times where you're gonna have to give them some money, some upfront money, right? Because some of them don't have any money, so you might have to give them, like, you know, some people $2,000, $5,000 just so that they can move on to the next step. You know what I mean? So they get their name is not damaged for the foreclosure, and then now they have some money to move or something like that. $2,000, $5,000, stuff like that. You don't want to go over $5,000. All right. So these two terms, these are considered real estate terms, like purchasing the property on terms. These two terms are going to be very important during these times to use. They're going to be very beneficial for not just your business, but also as personally, if you're trying to obtain properties personally, either for you to live in or to just continue to rent or invest. So listen, these are going to be the two, and I'm pretty sure some of you probably heard these terms already. Some of you heard it, but a lot of these YouTubers don't tell you exactly in depth. But listen, I can't go in depth right now about those both terms, but let me tell you something. These are going to be the two terms that are going to be the best terms they're used during a recession and a crash. And you're going to find a lot of sellers that are going to be motivated to do those terms. Okay? So this is just a tip that I wanted to give you guys for your business or personally to use in depth. If you guys want to go deep into it to figure it out, and I think you should, to really understand both of these terms, go into YouTube, search seller financing or subject to. Okay, subject to. Those two are going to be very beneficial. All right. So I just wanted to give you guys a tip. I just wanted to give you guys that. That's just the next step for your, during these times, things that you can do to better your business, things that you can do to get yourself ahead of people, ahead of the hump, and put yourself in a different category now, right? During these times. Because remember, an investor, they buy an up, down, sideways, every market they find opportunity. Okay, and that's what you guys need to do. You need to find opportunity. I'm going to give you the tips to get that opportunity so that you can better yourself and put yourself in a better position. That's what it's about. Thank you. Signing out.